So for the NexGen assets, there's different fields that control what go into NexGen from the field maps, and one of them is the status. So even today, while we're doing some test things, if you set the status to training or proposed, it's not going to show up in NexGen. We only want to be mapping things that actually exist. I know at David Crockett Birthplace, we have a lot of things in there that should be removed. So they might be in NexGen right now, but we're going to change the status in the GIS mapping in field maps to removed. And we will work on getting that stuff removed out of NexGen. So that's kind of how that works. Any proposed stuff for the new parks, we can map it out and see what it looks like in ArcGIS Field Maps on your iPad, but it's not going to show up in NexGen to put work orders on yet because it doesn't yet exist. So you do all the mapping in what we call One Smart Park. That's just the name of the map on the app called ArcGIS Field Maps. And then it shows up into the NexGen Maintenance map. So you'll be able to see everything and how they're named. And we've gone in and labeled them too, so that you're not reliant on just like the icons and knowing what every symbol means. So we had to break it down so that we know there's kind of three different purposes. So things that are buildings, that's probably a big one for maintenance. Doesn't have a roof. That's the big question. And that's how things end up on the buildings layer. So if you're looking for something to add and it's got a roof, it should be in buildings. An exception for that is a kiosk. Someone was toying with me last week saying, well, that has a roof, but maybe we need to add in the definition that it has doors or a window or something, but you get the general idea. We're just trying to split these up for different purposes. It's something that you might be maintaining the roof on or want to know the age of it. So you kind of look at it a little bit differently. So things like this, shelters and restrooms and aviaries. The operations assets are the stuff that the public does not need to know about or use. Things like the traffic counters or a dam and a spillway or a levee, cameras, the gas station. That's not a point that we're going to add to a map that we ever want the visitor to see and show up at your maintenance yard looking for a diesel refill. I'm sure you probably had that happen before, but we're not going to do that. The last thing is recreation assets. So those are more of the public facing things. And what's really cool is the mapping you're doing is actually going to show up on the park website someday pretty soon. Not every single thing. There's kind of like a hierarchy of let's show visitor centers and nature centers and museums and aviaries, but we're not going to show necessarily every single portable toilet. We might at some point, but the idea is it something that the public would interact with, and that's a recreation asset. It's really cool because when I go back to the roads and parking and stuff like that, like those are going to TDOT as well, so that we can figure out the roads agreement. I'll show you how each of the roads is symbolized a different color to help show us what we've already sort of agreed on, which is what's county responsibility versus park versus TDOT. And so the data you're collecting doesn't just stay on your phone. It's going out to all these different places where other people can benefit from it too. So we're really grateful you guys are doing this. There's another field called Asset Keeper. And that's really relevant for any of like the hospitality related parks or ones that have golf courses and lodges. So by default, whenever you collect a new point, it's going to call it park is the asset keeper, but you can change it to hospitality or facilities management if it's something that's at your regional maintenance offices. And that's how we organize that data. It'll be easier to group things out and run reports based on the asset keeper. And I think that's something that's a little bit different than Hippo. So we now have the ability to split things between hospitality buildings and park buildings. And again, I talked about like a public facing website map someday. A lot of those recreation assets will show up like this. So right now, just mostly the buildings that are marked as public view is yes. That's another question. So if public view is yes, then that could show up on that public interactive map. So just letting you know about those things. All right, so now is the fun part. We're really going to spend the next 10 minutes just getting logged in on the phone, making sure everything's working for you all. This is when you should pay attention for a brief second, just so we make sure your phone, your iPads and stuff are working all right. And then I'm going to show you how to map some things. I'm going to join from my phone, so it looks just kind of what you guys have going on. Does anybody have any questions while I'm setting this up? All right, can everybody see my phone so far? My screen broadcast? Try it again. I didn't want the audio to give you guys an echo. If you start to hear an echo, just let me know. I don't want it to be too noisy for you all. All right, there's our lovely faces. So if you haven't gotten it so far, you're going to want to download ArcGIS Field Maps. So go to whatever the Apple Store is on the iPad, and you're going to search for something called Field Maps. It's a blue icon that looks like this. And please let me know once you have it on your phone, and then I'll proceed to the login part. Thanks. As we're doing this, I'm going to sign out so you can see what it looks like from start to finish. We always have a little bit of trickiness getting signed on the first time, so that'll be normal. I might have to follow up with some of y'all, make sure your accounts are set up right. But what you're going to want to do is, once you get the field maps, you're going to open the app and type and hit sign in with ArcGIS Online. Does everyone see that button? It's the big white one, and I'm going to click on that. After that, it's trying to get me to use like a username and password, but we're smarter than that. We're going to use just our Microsoft accounts, the same ones that you might use for Teams and stuff. Um, so what you're going to do is, instead of ArcGIS login, you're going to kind of not expand that one, but go down to your organizational URL down here. So if it's like this, it's down at the bottom and it says your ArcGIS organization's URL. And this is the important part, type in TDEC, TDEC. It doesn't have to be capitalized or not. Make sure the space doesn't show up after you type it in, and hit remember this URL. So I'll send this over to you guys in screenshots too, but TDEC is what you're going to be typing in under your organization URL, and then hit continue. If you do that, you'll know you're in the right place because it says Department of Environment and Conservation. Let's hit that big blue button at the bottom that says TDEC AGOL. That stands for ArcGIS Online. That's like the parent company that runs field maps and all this stuff. So I'm going to hit the blue button, and it's going to take me through my Microsoft sign-on. And this is the only thing I'm curious about. If you guys start to share iPads at the regional office, you might have to go through this process of remembering your emails and your sign-in process. But I'd save my password for my email here. And if you're wondering the email, you're going to use your address that is like the BG number, not your first dot last name. So in my case, it was BG, then number at tn.gov. Hit your password and then do sign in, and it's going to send you. You can choose to do the code or text message. I like to do the text message one. It comes in pretty quickly. So again, you're probably going to have your phone with you along with your iPad. Do this in the office before you head out into the field. It'll be so much easier than when you're covered in dirt and it's hot and there's bugs and all that. So just do this in the office before you head on out. I'm going to put in my second code there. I'll stay signed in, but it never helps. It gets refreshed every 16 hours or so. And I'm in. So if I'm in, does anybody have any questions so far? That is really the hardest part about this, is just getting signed in the first time. All right. So now the next step is we're looking for the map. We're looking for that one smart park map where we can do um, all of the mapping on. So if you probably didn't see it, but there's a secret search bar. So pull down on your iPad until you see search. And right now you're probably going to need to be connected to Wi-Fi on your iPad. I should have mentioned that. But in order for this to work, you'll have to have the Wi-Fi turned on, connected into your office or your home, so that you'll be able to search for stuff online like this. When I get to search, I'm going to type in one smart park, and you should see this one that has kind of like a green button show up. There's 3 dots next to it, but I'm just going to click that map the first time and I'm in. Are folks able to follow along so far? Thank you. And just to throw a curveball at you, let's back out real quick a step and make sure we've got a couple of settings turned on that'll help you guys. I'm going to hit the back button if you can find that. And I'm going to hit cancel. And I'm trying to find my profile, my person. So for me, it's in the top left corner where there's a little person button, the little blue guy. I'm going to click that and it's going to show me, hey, who signed in on this device? That way, if you're sharing devices, you'll know, oh, the last person who used it was so and so. What you're going to do is scroll down to the bottom. And the most important button is called this auto sync. We want to turn that on. We want it blue. And what does that mean? That means when you open your iPad, when you get back to the office, it's going to shoot that data up to the cloud and pull down everybody else's edits at the same time. So you might have remembered that when we were practicing out in the field a little bit, but syncing is awesome. You know, the 4 of you can be out with iPads one day, collecting different utilities, and then you get back in the office and it's going to download everyone's stuff to your device and you can see what everyone else has been working on. So that's really important. So turn on auto sync. If you're using this from your phone, you would turn on cellular data, but I'm pretty sure that the iPads are not cellular enabled. If they are, if they have a cell plan with them and they work, you could turn cellular data on. But for our iPad that we use, we keep it off. Any questions about that? All right, I'm going to dive into one smart park again. Luckily, it kind of remembered that I was just in there. It's going to show current or the most recent one at the top. So I'm going to click one smart park and I'm diving in. And there is a ton of stuff in here. Great way to learn about the rest of the state if you're curious about where your wildlife management areas begin and end, or state scenic rivers. But what we want to do is you can either pinch and zoom in slowly like this, or at the top of your screen or somewhere on your screen, you see a little blue arrow. It looks like an arrowhead, an arrow tip. You're going to click that and it's going to zoom right to your location. That's awesome. If you've got Wi-Fi, this will work pretty good and you'll be able to see exactly where you are. Real quick, does anybody not have a blue plus button in the corner? That's something that can happen. So I just want to double check and make sure everybody is set up there. So does everybody have a little blue plus button that if you click it, it allows you to drop a point, so to speak? Does anybody not have that blue plus button? And if it happens that you don't have it, you can just shoot me an email or a call after.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Zara, you don't on yours? All right, I see that. That's just like an account setting. So I just reset that. So if you log out and then log back in again, that really annoying process. So to log out, you're going to hit that person button at the very top and go to sign out at the bottom. And then you'll sign back in again. It should work. Does anybody else not have that blue plus button? On my other screen, real quick, I'm trying to check everybody's accounts and make sure we're set up that way. Gary, I think yours needs to be changed too, so I'm gonna set yours up. So Gary, if you want, you can sign out, then sign back in again, and it should work. Just while I'm doing this real quick, I'm gonna just check everybody else's. So thanks for hanging tight. I know everyone's eager to test things out. And Reed, I don't have an account for you yet, so I'll need you to follow this process to create one, or maybe I'll send you an invite after this, and we can do that. Zara, you look good. Mark, I'll double check yours. Yours looks great. And anybody else's? Steve. Steve, I'm gonna upgrade yours real quick to be able to edit too. So thanks for hanging with us as we do this. And Adam, yours looks good. So, all right, we got a good crew here. I'll double check the folks who showed up last week too. But you got any questions like that? It's as simple as that. You just shoot me an email or a call, and I'll get your account set up. All right, let's do the fun stuff now. So in order to collect data, you probably already tried this out a little bit, but just want to make sure you're familiar with the different buttons and how to do things. And now is a good time. If you got some trick questions, throw them at me either in the chat or shout them out, and we'll try to play with those. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit that blue plus button because I want to collect something. You'll notice like there's a ton of stuff here. One smart park is trying to be a little bit too smart by having like 500 different things you could collect. Do you need all of those for the maintenance work that you're doing? Probably not. So let's make this a little bit easier on ourselves. I'm going to hit cancel to get out of the creating a feature. And at the very top where you see those 3 pancakes, I'm going to hit those. That's called our layers. You'll see something called My Tracks 2, which kind of tracks where your location has been that day. But really, I'm going to turn off things that are not relevant to me today, things I really don't think I'm going to need. You'll notice that I put in parentheses NexGen for anything that directly feeds into NexGen. So those are probably the top 10 that you want to keep on. I'm going to turn off I need to add NexGen to utility lines, but miscellaneous, don't need that today. Access roads, prescribed fire, I'm going to turn those off. This is just going to declutter my map a little bit so that it's easier to use. All right, now that I've done that, there's a little bit less on my map. And if I hit collect, now there's only a couple things. So there's stuff that feeds NexGen directly. We've got different sign types, landscape features. You probably only use maybe things like a pond or things that you can do maintenance on. So you can ignore a lot of those. But then we have all those recreation assets, and there are so many to choose from. So if you don't want to have to scroll through everything or look for the icon, at the very top where it says filter, that's kind of your search bar. So I'm going to type in the word trail and hit enter. And now I can see all the trail things that have the word trail in them under recreation assets. If I scroll down, there's actually a couple that are under operations assets too, like a trail traffic counter or a game camera, whether you're monitoring wild hogs or trying to keep an eye on your nature center or something like that. That shows up under operations assets. So I'm going to add a new trail camera. To do that, I'm going to click trail game cam, and it's going to drop it right on top of where I'm standing. So that's great if you're out there standing on top of the thing you want to collect. Let's say I'm actually trying to set up a trail camera right here along the Duck River. You can move that crosshairs around to where you want to put it without ever having to be there. So great rainy day activity, or if it's super hot, you can go out and collect stuff in the field without ever leaving your office, just by dropping points where you think they are. So I'm going to say that there's a trail camera on the back side of this building on the Duck River. our water treatment plant. I want to make sure no one's breaking in there. And I'm going to hit update the point, and it's now brought that nice icon over there. There's a lot of fields that you can fill in information in, but the only ones you're required to use are the ones with a little asterisk next to them. Things like the park name, the type, giving it a name, and who the asset keeper is and the status. All right, there's a couple of things you have to do. So I'm going to give it a name. We're going to call this Booker T. I'm going to skip state natural area because I'm not working in a state natural area right now. And even if you have one within your park, you can ignore that. It's just for the ones that are outside of our parks that if you help out a natural area that is beyond the park boundary, just helps us organize the data. In NexGen, you're going to be you might be seeing all these different trail cameras, and you don't want it to be just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So give it a name that is helpful. So I'm going to call this the Duck River camera, and maybe number 1 to see if that's helpful. And then asset keeper. You see how it defaulted to be park without me having to do anything? It's going to do that every time, or you can change it to be facilities management, golf, hospitality, or resort. So they will have different options there. Status is that really important one about what goes to NexGen. So existing would go to NexGen, but since we're just doing a test right now, let's all use training only. And that makes sure that this is not going to show up in NexGen where you're going to have to delete it out later. Last question, public view. This is already in operations assets, but just so it shouldn't be public, but I'm just going to click no. I don't want anyone to know about this. And then if you wanted to add in any more notes, you could. We give it a unique ID. You don't really have to worry about this, but that's how your work orders are tied to stuff in NexGen behind the scenes. Your work orders will be tied to Duck River camera number 1 under the trail game cameras under Booker T. Washington. That's how you'll find them. But on the back end, we're storing like a coded number to help us look things up. And you can take a photo if you want. Always helpful to take a good photo. If you're doing something that's going to be public someday, like a visitor center or an aviary, I take a nice picture in case that's what shows up on the website. When I hit submit at the very top, it'll go through, and now that point is created. Any questions on that? All right. So turns out that was a mistake. I don't mean to call it the Duck River camera number 1. It's actually camera number 2. So we got to go back in and edit that. So how do we do that? How do we change the name? What you're going to do is click on the point that you already created. It's going to pull it up. And if you click onto it, you can hit edit. And that lets me to go back in, and I could change the name to camera number 2. And you might be wondering, how often does NexGen get this data? Is it going to show up as soon as I get back to the office? Every Sunday night is when it runs and updates and sends all that data. So it might take a second, it might take a week for what you collected in the field to show up in NexGen to add work orders onto. But having that delay makes the NexGen system not have to work as hard, and make sure like we're not editing something. We did it at a time where we were hoping that no one's out, at 3 a.m. Sunday night collecting features. So a safe time to be sending data over. And that's when those updates will happen. All right. So I know there's some interest in utilities. So let's work on mapping a utility line real quick. This is where it's a little bit tricky, where you're going to want to learn about how is the stuff organized here. Again, I'm going to hit the blue plus button because I want to draw a line coming from my house. Actually, let's back up. Since there's so much going on here, let's turn off anything else except for those utility lines, just to make life a little bit easier. So you're going to go to that layer panel and turn things off. And now we're left with just the utility lines. So again, layers at the very top, and that's how you turn stuff on and off. You'll notice I already have one line showing up called a potable water line. And if I zoom in even more, electrical distribution. Kind of neat. I'd say this is pretty cool. This is going to help you visualize what you've seen at the park, know different things, and you can even see things that are assigned to those lines. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the blue plus button, and I'm actually just going to scroll down instead of typing, and you'll see how we've organized things. We tried to follow the 811 color coding. If that doesn't look correct, let me know, and we'll work on changing that up. This is just what we found so far. If you've got ideas of things that we haven't mapped yet and you want it to be added to this, by all means, just reach out and we'll add that type of thing to be collected. If you go down even further, you're going to see the different lines. So we've got cable, natural gas, we have wastewater, sewer versus potable water versus irrigation system. So kind of important to know the different water line types that are out there. If I hit cancel and add again, and I'm searching for something, and I type in water, you're going to see those two different ones show up as points, and wastewater and potable water show up as two line types. But if I wanted that irrigation, maybe we should add water to the irrigation label. You'll have to type in irrigation system, even though that's water. So I'll try to add in the word water there, so that way it will show up. But let's work on an irrigation system. So I'm going to add that line here. And as I draw, do you see that little black dotted line that's showing up? That is where my next point's going to be. Again, if I'm just in the office and I'm trying to draw out generally where this stuff is, maybe it connects down through the woods, I can just move this around and hit add point, go up to the next intersection, add point, and do it from there. But let's say that I actually want to stream my location. You're going to hit those three dots on the right and hit start streaming, or even undo. So I'm going to back up. Oh, I didn't want to do that point. I didn't want to do that point. Let's go back to my house, and I'm going to hit start streaming. And then I can just walk around and it's going to drop breadcrumbs everywhere I go. If you stop to tie your shoe for a second, it's going to be still dropping points kind of all over the place. You see my GPS accuracy at the top of the screen is 17 feet. As you stay still and move slower, that accuracy is a little bit better. You'll see on the map that it comes out really good. It might say 9 feet. That's like the guarantee, but it's going down to the feet and inches in reality. So if I were to zoom in, it's been dropping little points all over the place. I'm going to hit stop streaming to end it. And just for this demo, I am going to draw out a little bit of a system. All these little points, let's say this is where my water line, irrigation line is going between the ranger residence and the park office. And again, just fill in some of the required information. Under irrigation system, they even have more line types. So if you were doing water, we're going to set this up so that if you type in water, only the water related lines show up. I think if irrigation was just other, if you have types of irrigation lines that you want included, we can include those. And let's give it a name, and ranger residence to visitor center irrigation line. The more detail you put in there, the more helpful it's going to be for future staff to use this. I could put in some notes, and what's really cool is it calculates the line length for you. So you don't have to guess anymore about how long that is if you're trying to order replacements. You can document whether what the material of that line was, last time you repaired it, an install date. So if you've got open earth because they're digging a new line, go on in and map it out now while you can still see it. You can put in the diameter and color. That way, if you open up a hole someday and you see 3 different pipes on top of each other of different color, you'll know what it is in reference to. You can even put in the notes, where is the nearest cutoff for this line? And I think that's really helpful. Let's pretend a poor park ranger is on duty the day while you guys are off, and campground line breaks. Just to be able to click on this line and see where the nearest cutoff is, super helpful. Again, all of these are optional fields. So I could add a photo if I wanted to. I'm going to hit submit. Looks like an error. So what's going on here? Why did it not submit? it's telling me that you had one required field that I didn't fill in. So if I hit view, it's going to go up to it. Looks like I forgot to put in the park name. So that's kind of how it helps you not submit stuff without the required information. And again, status, I should probably go in and make that training only so that it doesn't show up in NexGen right now. These are some of the options we have. So abandoned and damaged or remove, proposed removed. You'll kind of get that historic record of what's been done at the park. All right, I know I've been talking a lot, so any questions right now? All right, well, let's say that the ranger residence moved and it grew some legs and walked off down the street, and we need to update where this line is actually going. What you can do is click on the line again and go into it and hit edit, and we can change it. We can extend it, or if we want, we can even click one of those dots, like those line vertexes, and move it over to here. And if I hit the three dots and hit update selected point, now my line is like that. So I could actually move them one line at a time to different places. So if it's not the right thing, let's say we're trying to connect a different building, you could extend it over and add the point and hit submit. And now the line is updated to go in this direction. Pretty cool. If you guys get as-built drawings from like a big recent project, don't know if any of you guys have new lodges that are being built, either reach out to me or like have us connect with the builders, and we can get those as-built plans and drop the designs into field maps for you guys, so you don't have to go out and map everything. So if you've got any old blueprints and sketches or hand-drawn maps, you can send that all to us and we will draw it out for you to save you some time. We're happy to add this in and organize it. All right, let's drop some points on this line. We want to know where that cutoff valve is for the irrigation system. I don't know if that's actually a relevant term, but I'm going to hit the blue plus button to add a point. It's trying to drop it where I'm currently sitting, but we're going to move it right to this little vertex. And do you see as I get close, it's trying to snap to the line? That's really nice because that way you know it's going right onto that line. So I can do an irrigation system point, put it right there, give it a park name, point type. We're gonna go call it the sprinkler, give it a name, residence to front lawn sprinkler. And you'll notice like I made some typos in there. There's a spell check on it. We could change the asset keeper if we wanted to there. Status is training only. And I'm not going to fill in any other information for now because I don't know it. And I'm going to hit submit. All right, there you go. If you need to delete something, we don't actually have the ability to do it right from this map. So if you have something that you want deleted, reach out to me and I can get it deleted off the map. That's just how it works. So that way someone doesn't come in and start deleting things that you don't want. You know, say a new maintenance work comes on and it just makes a couple mistakes. We don't want it. We want to kind of dummy proof this and make sure it's not deleted. But it's really cool. We've got the colors, we've got labels turned on, and we're going to work on symbology too, so that the points actually look like some good symbols. One last thing I want you all to know is how to make an offline map. So what does that mean? That is when you don't have cell service, and pretty much every time you use your iPad, you're going to need to use an offline map because it doesn't have cell service. So let's do that real quick. So before you go out in the field, you're in the office for the day. You maybe your regional office, so you're in charge of 10 different parks. Let's make some offline maps for those parks. What I'm going to do is I've got one smart park. I searched for that name right here, and three little dots are on the side, right on the right side here. If I click those three dots, I'm going to do add offline area. If I zoom in, I'm actually let's do this for an actual park so you can see some examples. So Henry Horton is the closest park to me, and I want to do an offline area. What that means is it's going to download all the information within the box. So my box is this little square here, and it doesn't look like I can fit the whole park inside that box. What a bummer. But guess what? We can make that a little bit bigger. At the very bottom of your screen, it's a little different depending on your device, but you'll see how it says level of detail equals room. We're going to switch that and click on room, and we're going to change that to rooms or maybe small building. Small building is actually way too big for Henry Horton, and that's going to take a while to download. So I'm going to choose rooms instead. And looks like I can pretty much get the whole park except for their little satellite site over here. You also, since you're in charge of a couple different parks, there's a bookmarks tool. So in the top right corner for me, there's a little bookmark button. And actually, ignore that. Not helpful in this case. So again, you're going to zoom into the park that you're trying to get to fit in your map. So for example, let's do like a bigger park to head on over to Norris. Or Big Ridge. Pretty good example where I can fit just about all of it in this box. If I needed to go a little bigger, I'd hit level of detail and switch that to small building. I'm going to hit download area. Now my map is downloading, and it is really, really slow. It's trying to download a lot of information, the imagery of that base map. So it takes a while. And what I recommend, because these are like state devices, take the time to keep this open on your desk. Keep refreshing, like tapping the screen so that it doesn't go quiet or black. I've noticed that if the screen goes dark, it slows down the downloading. And if you switch to another app, it really slows down. So don't switch back and forth between different things. Just keep this open, keep tapping it, and hopefully within a couple minutes, it will download. For those bigger parks, those bigger areas, it does take a considerable amount of time. And if you notice that it's failing, let me know, and we'll try to figure out a good way around it. While you're doing that, you can't really do anything else. You can't go in and be mapping stuff. So just focus on the download. It's a little Zen exercise right there. Since I'm doing this, does anybody have any questions on mapping different things and how it shows up?
I have a question. If someone placed a point like you just did, you mentioned we don't have the ability to delete, but could another employee go in and change that point and save it, which would alter the original drawing or input?
Yeah, I think in different ways. Like if you find that it's not accurate, like the location, you could edit and move that point to where you want it. If you decide to change it, say like it was uh, a trailhead kiosk, they had put that in there, and really it's just a trailhead. There's no kiosk there, and you switched it from kiosk to just trailhead. That
Mhm.
will kind of mess with NexGen a little bit. You'll have a kiosk entry in there hanging out in space, and now you'll have a trailhead entry. There'll be two, and you'll have to figure out which one has like maintenance work orders assigned to it. But we can go in. You just message me and anytime until we figure this out, how to do this faster. But if you see like errors like that, just reach out to me and we'll get it deleted out of NexGen if we need to make that update. I
Okay,
don't know if that
thanks.
quite answered your question. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
So now that did download for me. It took, a couple minutes, but I'm gonna hit those three dots again on the side and I'm gonna give it a name. So rename this area. That way we know what it is. Map area one is not helpful, but I know that this is Big Ridge, if I can spell that. And I hit OK. That way, if I have 10 different maps on here, um, I know which one it is. You can always hit manual sync when you get back to the office if you want to send stuff up right away, but it's pretty much doing this all the time on the fly. I'm going to go back in and show the example you mentioned. So let's turn on some layer where this might be relevant. I'm going to go down to recreation assets. I can find it and turn that on. And someone put a boat trailer parking across the street. That's not actually boat trailer. We don't want any boats to park there. We don't want this to show up on the public as boat trailer parking. So I'm going to click on that, and either what I can do is edit and move it to a place that does have the boat trailer parking. Over here, I say update point and give it the name and call it test Duck River boat parking. That might be one way to do it. Or I could even switch it from being boat trailer parking to just a regular parking point, or maybe it's bus parking and not that. What that'll do in NexGen is now we'll technically have an old boat trailer parking thing and a bus parking. So we'll need to go in and delete that boat trailer. And that's when you would reach out to me for that. Awesome.
I have a
So does
question.
anybody have any? Yeah, go for it.
So can you add multiple downloaded areas into one, I guess, one section? Like, for example, Harpeth River split up into multiple sections. Would I just have to download that in multiple sections?
For the God bless the Cumberland Trail, but for Harpeth, I would probably just get one big offline area to cover it all. I mean, you could do 10 separate ones, but it is sometimes easiest just to work off of one, as long as your phone can handle the download. So when I go over to the Harpeth over here, what's nice is I can see that previously collected data, but I see what you mean. Like, this is pretty spread out. So I'm going to change my level of detail. Let's see, how big do I have to get in order to cover that? That's covering Radnor and Bicentennial Mall. So maybe I can get away with building for that, but you are right. Like, this might be, we might need to do two. So in that case, you might call it Harpeth North, or in Harpeth East, or Northwest and Southeast, or you get one for each of the different sections, like Hidden Lake and the Narrows, and just name it Narrows and Hidden Lake.
Okay,
I will
thank you.
say that about once every 2 months, you should go in and remove this area and re-download a new one. It's infrequent, but sometimes we'll make a new layer. Like, let's say we wanted to track skydiving areas. That's just a crazy example, but that layer is not going to show up on your offline map unless you get a new one. All the data, like the stuff your other workers are collecting, is always going to be syncing. But if it's something like brand new, then yeah, we'll have we'll have to download a new offline map, and that's what a lot of the park staff do. Would it be helpful to do like kind of refresher mapping sessions every once in a while? Once a month, once every 2 months, and just let you guys drop in and ask questions? Okay, nice. We're thinking about doing go for it, Gary.
Yes, I think it would be a great idea.
Okay. We're gonna do like kind of like office hours once a month for park staff about other things. So I'll make sure to include you guys too. So if you want to ask any questions about the NexGen stuff, we can set aside some time just to focus on NexGen.
Appreciate that.
All right. Any other questions? Again, I'll send out this video recording so you guys can take a look at it. Takes some getting used to, but once you're in it, it'll start to make some sense. If you want me to come out and work with you at your park and practice a little bit, I'm happy to do so. So just let me know a time or place. If you want help training some of your other maintenance staff at parks, We've got a good team spread out. John's up in Jonesboro and can cover Northeast Tennessee, and I can cover West Tennessee. We've got people in Chattanooga, so we're happy to come out anytime and do some mapping with you all. Great. Well, if you got blueprints or any other data, some projects finishing up, please keep us in the loop where we won't be in the loop otherwise. So don't assume we're getting data from every completed construction project, but if you can, just give us some points of contact and we'll get that data for you to save you some time. Thanks for coming today, and let me know if you got any questions anytime. My cell phone is in my email, so you can reach me there. All right. Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.